Hello, everyone, and good evening. Thank you for joining us again. This is Shane and Cindy on the Creative Real Estate Podcast and YouTube channel, as you can find us on Facebook as well. I think most of you that are here live tonight joined us with Albert a couple weeks ago talking about Section 8 secrets, and we promised to have Mike on. Mike is the anchor, the man, the myth, the legend. Albert had to give him a hard time, so we'll see what we can do about that.
Well, I've been called worse, Shane, so you're doing not a great job at what Albert told you to do so far.
You got to start easy. Got to ease into it. We heard Albert's story. Mike, how did you get into real estate? Kind of tell us your background as to, he kind of came into real estate the long way in. He wasn't really focused. That wasn't his path and goal in life originally. But how did you get into real estate, and then what brought you into the affordable housing market?
Well, I actually didn't plan on, I think a lot of people, they don't necessarily plan on getting involved in real estate when they started at a young age. It's just one of those things that I kind of gravitated toward, but I majored in finance. So I grew up in Maine, never really loved the house I lived in. So I did always aspire to have a nicer house. I'll be honest. I grew up in a 900 square foot ranch home in Augusta, Maine, and it was also a daycare. So I really didn't have any of my own space. I'll be flat out. Like it was hectic all the time.
No privacy. Yep.
Not any real privacy. No, like my bedroom was also an office. That's how crazy it was. But we made do, and I was happy and all that stuff. But yeah, and I was good at baseball. I went to school for baseball in Maine, and also studied finance. And about sophomore year, realized baseball's probably not going to pay the bills after I'm giving up some home runs that I wasn't used to doing. And anyway, took schooling a little more serious. Got an internship my senior year at a company called MB&A America as a credit analyst. Had an opportunity then to really start exploring people's financial pictures, their backgrounds, what's going on with their debts. How are some people able to have such a good FICO and have a ton of debt? And that was where I was always like, what are they doing here? A bunch of mortgages, typically what it was. It could be several millions of dollars in mortgages. And that's where I started really getting more interested in real estate. That was probably that moment where, I was trying to understand that. And then fast forward a little bit more, I graduated from college, got done my internship. They offered me a job. I did that job for about a year, but was still wanting to get in the mortgage industry. So I got into as a mortgage broker. I became a mortgage broker and I'm laughing because these are the heydays of no doc, ninja loans. This is that whole mortgage-backed security dilemma that was going on and all that stuff. That was in 05 and 06 and 07. And I got out of it in 07. But with that exposure, it led me to buying my first unit just 6 months after graduating. So that got me into becoming and seeing the value even more firsthand at that point as a landlord, and having a roommate paying pretty much 80% of my cost of living, me covering the extra 20%, which is like maybe call it $200 a month. And I was living in a quite nice condo in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. And that started me on the quest for more real estate shortly thereafter. Yep.
Sorry, I take notes as we talk. So,
sure.
And Albert talked a little bit about Old Orchard Beach being a nicer area. So here it is already a lifestyle change for you from how you grew up, right? In your 900 square foot. Now you have your own place. Not only that, but you have somebody helping pay for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It really
start to see that advantage.
Yeah, Shane, that really changed my paradigm, right? And it changed the trajectory that life was heading quite quickly, which isn't right. It isn't that common. And I will say there's a couple things, right? There's some qualities and traits that are required to do that at a young age. But ultimately, the genesis of it was real estate, that as long as I stayed the course, I understood I needed to continue doing that. And it goes back from me seeing a few things as a credit analyst and looking at that and knowing it's going to take time. And that was one of the big things I feel like with younger folks, especially when I was that age, and I'm talking to people they're like, what the heck are you doing living in Old Orchard? You know, why aren't you in the apartments in Portland and going out and all that? And I was like, look, I'm 15 minutes outside of that. I'm in a beautiful area.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm also trying to build like the sustainable way of life and wealth. So, you know, and that's something that until you're in the game, or maybe you're researching it and reading, but a lot of those folks just didn't end up like getting it at that period in time. And neither did I, actually. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't know how valuable all that was, what was really going to happen to me at that point. I didn't realize the trajectory I was necessarily on. I just knew I liked, hey, it's $200 a month. This ain't bad. My roommate's paying me $800. I'm covering, and he's happy that I'm covering utilities or something. I was like, okay, this works. So yeah,
that was just a small glimpse into what the future is going to bring to you. You just didn't know how far down that path you're headed.
Yeah, exactly, Shane. Yeah. And it gives you that extra bit of income that keeps growing pretty much every year, is just that little bit more to go ahead and live a little more frivolously if you want that year or whatever, because life happens. And when, you know, even if you don't start at a young age, but when you have a lot of time ahead of you, it's much more beneficial at that point too. So I always I'm trying to get my kids. I mean, I have a 2, 6, and an 8-year-old though. They're a bit young, but my 8-year-old's starting to learn a little bit more about real estate. You know, because you got to, the value of time is incredible.
Amen.
Yep.
52 years old. I wish I could go back and do a whole bunch of things over. But
yep.
Time machine's just not invented yet. So when you were in the finance industry, you kind of saw some insights there that said, boy, some of these people that have debt, but still really good FICO scores, but that debt was different than what some other people would carry that would impact their FICO score in a negative way, right?
Yeah, that's right, Shane. Yeah, and when I'm looking at it, we're trying to approve them. Now, I worked a lot with credit cards as well, and then balance transfers, and these people that are moving money around, and I'm realizing, like, how do they have like a $200,000 credit limit, and they have all this debt, and then you start diving deeper, and you're like, whoa, their FICO's like 825, and it's like, wow, they're really moving some serious money around, and that was the piece that I feel like one of the harder things for even my friends now, you know, and I'm an older person now, they think it's crazy to have $1 million or $2 million in mortgage debt, and they don't really get it. You know, they're like, oh, well, you don't really have that type of net worth. It's like, well, hold time out. When you figure out how much everything is appraised for, if you wanted to go ahead and liquidate, it might be worth 5 million. And yeah, I have a little over 2 million in debt, but that's not a bad debt to have, right? And then there's inflationary debt destruction, you know, that people may know about, and, you know, let inflation work your debt down on its own. But yeah, the debt was something to overcome for sure mentally. It's one of those things you got to be comfortable with the numbers. And I talk about that in my training too, is like, be comfortable relinquishing the money you need and establishing the debt you really need to establish to be on your path and your journey and your quest to get more and more real estate and financial freedom. And I know it helped me being in the mortgage industry and understanding mortgages really well, to be comfortable getting another mortgage and understanding how to leverage FHAs and, you know, first-time home buyers and primary principal resident loans, where, you know, I have 4 of them still. I have 4 primary principal. I have 2 FHAs and 2 primary principal resident loans still. And there's ways to figure that out and do that. And why that matters is how much initial capital did I have to put up front? Well, 3.5% on 2 of them and 5% on the other 2. Yeah.
Even going to the hard money loan, you can't get those kind of ratios.
No, you can't get those ratios, and you can't come close to the rates. Definitely. With
right. The rates is the other part. Yeah. But
I get it too. Hard money loans work too. As long as you go into it understanding the numbers and how you're going to leverage it and how you're going to get out of it, it could definitely work too. Some people, that's their only option. And I think a hard money loan is better than no loan at all or no deal at all, you know, because that's one of the worst things, is being on the sidelines, you know, year in and year out. And I have a couple friends that have sat on the sidelines that I've been really close to that have pretty darn good money, and they end up not buying. I have plenty of friends that have bought and they're happy about that, but there's still a few that I'm like, when are you going to do it, man? You know, engineers, usually they're really slow.
Waiters wait, right? Is that
waiters wait and movers move? Yeah, we have a little chapter in there about that, and break it down of how a waiter can really never catch a mover ever, despite whatever they're waiting on. Whether you're waiting on interest rates or you're waiting on values, oftentimes the waiter doesn't even really know exactly what they're waiting for. They really don't. And I'll ask them that, and they might be like, well, I'm waiting for values to slow down. Well, guess what? When values slow down, interest rates are going up typically. So now what? Now, so you want rates to be really high. I got you. Okay. You sure you want that? Because when that time comes, are you really going to act on it? I'm just saying, it's really, they haven't really thought it out too far.
They're just picking up on some reason to wait.
Usually it is. And I don't try to be rude about it. I'll just follow it up and be like, well, what exactly is it that you don't have the money? And that's something I can kind of understand. But oftentimes it's not. It's just like, hey, rates are too high now. That is what I've been hearing. And, and I understand that, but they're only high, relatively speaking, over the past like 5 years. But when you average it out over 40 years, rates are actually kind of low. Right? Yeah, they're still very competitive. I think the average rate is somewhere over 40 years is something around 8% is the average interest rate. And I'm old enough to be in this game long enough to know I worked for the mortgage company that got me the loan that I had, that ultimately it did get paid off fully. The first unit I ever bought that I was talking about in Old Orchard Beach, but that was at 6.8 or 6.5% interest rate.
Yep.
And that was the company I worked for that gave me that loan. So, I mean, yeah, that's a little lower maybe than what you could get today, but still, that was a company I worked for, and I didn't hesitate, and they hooked me up. It probably would have been around 7 if I didn't work for the company that gave me for the bank.
We've just been very spoiled here recently with the interest rates being as low as they were. And we think that's
right, Shane. Yeah. And what I see too in correlation with those low interest rates is a key focus, and almost oftentimes to a flaw, a sole focus on cash return. And I've been in it, when I was in it initially, I didn't really care too much about cash on cash return and people looking for that 1% rule and all that stuff. As long as it was somewhat positive, you could make sense of the math and understand why it does work when you consider the unrealized gains. And that's an appreciation and principal pay down, and then the tax advantages that you gain also in real estate. So like when I'm cash flow positive, granted, I have a lot of good ones now, but if you're cash flow positive at $50, you could make the argument why you should buy unless you have something else to do with the money that you have on the sideline, so yeah.
So one of the things we'll come back to, Mike, is talking about good debt versus bad debt, right? Because you talked about it just for a little bit, but the advantages of holding real estate, you hinted at as well. And not only as part of that being that you have an asset, right? So one of the things that asset is doing is it's appreciating, right? As inflation changes over time, the asset should appreciate in value. Somebody is paying that debt down, and you should be making cash flow. There's 3 different ways that you should be winning on that property at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And then the fourth way is leverage, because now you have a fourth option too. Once you've owned it for 3-4 years, you likely have enough from that appreciation, from that principal pay down, and from that positive cash flow, even because now if you put the positive cash flow in a separate account, and that's what we talk about in the training, you likely within 4 or 5 years, you've likely gained enough in appreciation, gained enough in cash flow to go ahead, if you want, cash out refi, because you could cash out refi. Some banks let you go to 80%. So you could cash out another 10 to 15% on that equity that you've gained and have enough for your next one. And then you look at what's really fun then, looking at those same variables, Shane, and multiplying it by 2, 3, 4. Now you have what's called compound real estate investing. And I have a really nice chapter, and I have a nice little table in here in the training platform where you can play with that. And I've done a video on that as well to explain that. But ultimately, Shane, you can, if you do it right, like you buy your first unit and you're likely buying your second unit within 4 years. And literally by the time year 10 arrives, you've now bought 9. And what I mean, if you buy the right ones and you follow the model, you will have only spent out of pocket the first one. And then you could use your positive cash flow, refi just one, and then the rest of them is all from your cash flow. And that's where, I mean, and I'll be honest, where I'm at right now is every 6 months, I can redeploy my cash flow account and buy another unit. And what I mean is that about equates to a little over $50,000. I'm not some hero. I mean, there's plenty that could bring in, you could bring in more. I could multiply this even more. But the big thing with myself and Albert, where we really align, very well, is a life of leisure, to the point where real estate is the leisure piece of it. It's super fun. It's really enjoyable. There's so many things you can learn about it. And it's extremely safe, contrary to what, when you're just getting involved, it doesn't feel that safe. But if you've tried other things, like I do a lot of stuff with brokerage accounts as well with stock. And, I've traded options as well. And that's a quick 20, 30,000 gone if it doesn't go your way. In real estate.
Albert talked about his experience there with cryptocurrency and how volatile that can be as well.
He's holding on. He's hanging on tight. He's at a blended cost on that Bitcoin at like 38,000. So he's getting close to even, but it's been like 2 years of hell. But yeah, I was going to say, like in real estate though, worst thing, even if your unit burns down, you get your money back and you have free margin on top of everything else. The bank is lending you the money that you don't have, right? With all that mortgage, right? And you get the benefit 100% on the appreciation. Because the appreciation isn't the appreciation on your down payment, it's appreciation on the total sales price. And that's where the compound real estate chart really starts to emphasize and gives you a wow factor when you look at it that way. With just a 3 or 4%, a measly 3 or 4% annual appreciation is significant, because that could be about 20% return on your cash involved, on your initial capital. So 4 or 5% appreciation on 200,000 equates to almost 20% on your cash that you put on your down payment is what I'm referring to.
Right. So your cash on cash return, right, is what you're talking about. So
I'm not
leverage. It's not actually cash on cash return, but yeah, it's
your overall, it's your unrealized gains. So your unrealized gains, when you hear 4% appreciation, a lot of people just hear the word 4 and they think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But stop and think about, what is it 4% of? It's not 4% of the 20,000 you put down on that $100,000 property, because you have to put 20% down. Typically on conventional conforming Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, you're going to put 20% down. It's actually 4% of 100,000. Big difference, right? Big difference. And then when you multiply that by 5, 6, 8, 10 properties, enormous difference. You start to see these huge gains year over year, that you're like, holy cow, my net worth, I didn't think I could be a millionaire. I didn't think I could be an 8 millionaire. I didn't think I could be a 10 millionaire, and I don't have a lot of properties. It's time and it's just consistency. And that's, that's where Section 8 comes into play big time.
And again, get back to your comment, movers and versus waiters, right?
Yep.
A waiter can try to wait for the right time, but they'll never catch up with the mover.
Yeah.
We use it game. If you don't start now, right? They always say, it was the best time to get in real estate. Well, 25 years ago. But the next second best time is today.
Yeah. So there's actually an old adage that, they say, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. And there's so much truth to that when you look at that, and you look at that chapter, and we break it down with mathematics. This isn't just an opinion or just guessing. Albert and I probably love Excel more than Albert, but Albert loves Excel as well. And we just run the calculations in Excel. And when we did that, I was like, Albert, we got to write a chapter about this, because this seems eye-opening to even myself. When I did that on Excel, what I was trying to do, just Shane, in short, was come up with a scenario where it made sense, where the waiter was right. And it was like, the waiter actually, I should have listened to him, so to speak. You can't come up with that in any normal scenario that you could run in the variables based on interest rates and so I didn't put a pandemic in there or something like that. But even then it worked, unbelievably for Section 8, because all my Section 8 rents went up. But it's only accounting for what people typically wait for. And I'm not saying they're waiting for money. They're waiting on interest rates, or they're waiting on values in real estate. And when you do that, we couldn't come up with a scenario where the waiter was right, where it was like, oh, good thing. Because one of the scenarios was pretty good. Call it 2006 or 2005 when I bought my first unit, was a really bad time. When you look in hindsight, I bought in 2007. I graduated in 2005. I bought my unit shortly thereafter. And then I was refining it in 2007 into a new loan. And you could hypothetically say you timed that up horrific, Mike. And because that was one of the higher points when it really started to bottom out in 2008. But anyway, so a high interest rate, values were down. The market was getting so corrupt at that point. And then all of a sudden we hit the Great Recession. And I still was cash flow positive. I increased rents 30% over that span. And where the span is to 2012, where that was the actual low point. You guys, you can look, and Shane, you likely know the low point in values and everything from the '08 market crash ended up lasting all the way out to 2012. Right. So if that timer knew somehow he had a genie, and I talk about this in one of my other trainings, if he has a genie, I don't have a genie. I wish I did. But if he had a genie and the genie said, you know what, Mr. Waiter, wait until 2012, the genie would have been actually wrong in comparing it to me, my scenario that I got lucky and I just bought in 07. I refied in 07. Because what ends up happening is I'm 30% more and I'm buying my next unit because the cash flow and I actually gained some appreciation over that period of time. I have principal pay down and I have positive cash flow enough to now buy again in 012, which I ended up buying in 2010. You know, I didn't have a lot of money, guys. I was making $30,000. I was able to buy again, though, because I had that positive cash flow over the worst economic time ever in my era, in my lifetime in real estate. And I was able to buy the next unit in 2010 just from positive cash flow and a $30,000 salary job that I had. Yep.
So again,
and then the waiter would have been buying his first unit. Sorry, Shane, but to finish that off, the waiter now would have been buying his first unit when I was buying unit 2. And now guess what? I also got really lucky because now I'm buying when he's buying his first, I'm buying when values are down and interest rates were down too. And why did I do that? I did that because I didn't wait and I was already on to my second one. And because if you're trying to time it, you're not going to time it. But if you're not trying to time it and you just keep doing it when you're comfortable to buy, you're going to look back and be like, wow, did I know something that I didn't realize? Like I bought at the best possible time out, Mike. You also bought at 3 of the worst times, but it all works out as long as you are systematic.
And if you're in the game, now you have different rules, right? So you have a property, and when it gets to the point when you can when the rates come back down, you can refi it. You can get that and recapture that lower interest rate. Just because you bought it at 6.5% doesn't mean you have to keep it there for life. When things turn around, you can recapture that advantage.
That's right, Shane. That's right. Yeah, you can always get out of it. You know, the money side of the deal is always a changing thing that you can make. I'm a huge advocate for the 30-year fixed, but absolutely, why not capitalize? Like I did, actually. I refied, 2 properties 3 years ago. I mean, even my primary principal residence here, where I had a pretty good interest rate, it was like 3.7. I was able to get 2.9 though 2 years ago. So I snagged that. I said 30-year lock this thing at 2.9 and let me get some cash out at the same time and buy another unit. And that's what I ended up doing. So it's like, yeah, but you're always able to move that money piece of it. So as long as the property makes sense, make sure it goes down to the asset that you're purchasing. If that makes sense, you'll figure out the money piece of it. And that works out. Now, I'm not saying that's easy necessarily, especially when you're new to the game and, you're on the fence and you're thinking, I've saved. And that's where the training and the systematic approach to it really helps you out. Yeah.
So how long, and I guess I wanted to make sure everybody caught the point that when you were in real estate and you were buying your first house, gone to your second house, you weren't a real estate investor working full-time, buying and selling real estate. You had a full-time job. Is this something you were doing on the side, the snowball you were building?
Yeah, I ended up getting, so I actually was moving too. So I moved, so to kind of rewind here. So yeah, I moved to North Carolina shortly after I refied, like I was saying there, in November of 2007, it was Black Friday. I relocated to North Carolina and was now managing 856 miles away, my first rental that I didn't live in, right? And then I was renting myself where I moved down here, myself and a teammate. We always, I was unfettered at the time. So I was like, if we're going to do it, man, we got to do it. And I loaded up my car with everything that could fit. Anything that didn't was the tenants that moved in. And unfortunately, I had a really bad experience. And those first tenants that moved in, it was horrific for me and almost got me to the point where I'm like, should I just sell this darn unit? And I went back to what I was looking at and thinking about it. And I'm like, the hardest thing in real estate is acquisition. I truly believe that. It's acquisition is the hardest thing. It's not maintaining. It's not, if you have systematic processes and everything in place, get out of the negotiation successfully, then keep the unit. And so, yeah, I was able to get a job down here, worked in a financial industry as an outside consultant, and then was also a personal trainer to meet people because I was just myself and a teammate. And I was able to meet some people down here. In the meantime, I was looking at real estate in Raleigh, North Carolina. I targeted a few areas correctly and accurately based on research. It wasn't by chance that I came into Raleigh. I knew Raleigh was good. I knew Austin, Texas was good as well. And it did stem from, just research on real estate and then also the economy in general. And then I love golf. So Raleigh is like the East capital of golf. It's like Golf Central. And it's really actually one of the, outside of New York City, it's one of the financial capitals on the East Coast as well. And I liked finance. So I was going to move to Charlotte, but I ended up doing Raleigh and got a job at a small bank for a little period of time. Before now, I ended up getting in at a startup company down here. And I've been here now 11 years as a director of HR operations for a startup company that's actually been bought and sold 3 different times now. So yeah, so it's been quite a bit. But yeah, so my core focus is not real estate by any means, guys. I'm a family guy. I have a 2, 6, and 8-year-old, married. I love golf. I love getting out. I love, just hanging out, having fires in my backyard and talking to people and having a good time. I love cards and stuff like that. I by no means have some weird network that helps me buy houses or anything like that. I'm just systematic and I have a desk job and I'm good at Excel. And it all started with Excel sheets and putting everything on paper and understanding the finances of it. And that's why one of the first things I created was something I just called a forecaster. And I'm able to plug in numbers specific to what I'm targeting. And how do I know what I'm targeting? I target the 40th percentile of any given neighborhood in any given area. And you become market agnostic because I also furthermore target HOAs. I don't target single family houses. So, I mean, yeah, I got a litany of reasons for stuff like this, but yeah, it makes it really easy to just target HOAs. Now, that sounds contrary to many investors. They're like, you're crazy. You like the rules, the regulations, you like the fees. Yep, I do actually. And I have plenty of reasons why. Yeah.
Pam was asking, give us an overview of the process that you go through and you analyze to figure out if a property is a good property or not.
Yeah. So, well, we do have a tool also called an analyzer, which what that is a heat map geographically of all the United States. And you can click on each state, you can see their color coordinated, and it's going to instantly, when you click on the state, it's going to go to the county level and it's going to give you what the FMRs are. So what the fair market rent rates are, both private and also based on HUD. So what do I mean? What will the housing urban development provide you? What will the government give me for rents on this property? Now, knowing that the government only targets the 40th percentile and below of housing for the housing choice voucher program that I leverage heavily, they'll target 40th percentile and below, meaning you're not going to get some palatial 4-bedroom, 3,800 to 5,000 square foot home that's going to work. It won't work. Heat map. Yeah. Fair market, 40 percentile. There you go. Yeah. Sandy. That's right. And that's the first thing you want to know is what are you going to get for these rents? Now, then you go into that, what they call that 1% rule, right? Where you want to, if you're going to spend 200,000, you want to get around 2,000 in rents. That's what the typical 1% rule, that's what they're talking about. They're saying 1% of the sales price is what you want to ideally get, in which you can do that. I was doing much better than that before COVID hit. And then, values soared. I was like, good Lord. Now that's also great. Our net worths go way up too. But rents didn't quite keep up. And now rents are still creeping up, which is pretty darn nice with, rents have gone up quite a bit. But yeah, so Shane, that would be the first step. Second step is now I look at property type as well. I know I don't really care for single family homes, and I'm not saying we can't buy them. And I did. I've had 3 that I owned. I had an executive rental and I had 2 just standard single family homes, and they weren't bad. I'm not saying I did not lose money on them. I just had a firsthand experience of a good experience with the HOAs. So even in my training, it's not like you have to use HOAs, but I've learned how to successfully leverage HOAs in such a manner that you will not need property management and you will be 100% market agnostic, meaning you don't care where the property is, which is why I'm looking in Arizona right now, some town I never even heard of that somebody chimed in on Section 8 Secrets community, and I'm talking to a realtor in Arizona because of those comments, which was great. And that's the idea too, with the Section 8 community, we're all sharing ideas and thoughts and questions.
Hey, Mike, is that Colleen Wick? Is that Colleen Wick?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Shane and I know her very well.
Yeah, she's been on the show. She's helped us with the comping.
Yeah, I'm looking at I have these sticky notes. I'm looking for my sticky notes because I was talking to, I think it's like the Pinal County Housing Authority. I was talking to them.
It's Pinal.
Yeah, I didn't even know who I was calling, but I was like, these numbers make way too much sense for me to not want to like at least call and investigate. And it turns out it's actually pretty good. And I don't want to, I'm not going to steal the one that she was talking about, but she sounds like she's not interested in it. I'm like, I don't know. I think you might want to rethink your level of interest because you should be, I think. But
Shane, that was the one I sent you a message about.
All right. I'll go back
reach out to Colleen. Yeah.
I would look at that one. Yeah, Shane. So that deal, I plugged it into my analyzer, like I was talking about in the deal forecaster, and it gives you about an 8.5% return on investment. And what we're talking about, listeners, is it's a house. What is it? A 4-bedroom at like $262,000. But keep in mind, and this is what I highlighted to Colleen, is it's been listed for 214 days. So don't think that you're going to get it at 262. I mean, go in there kind of low, guys. Like there's got to be a rhyme to a reason here. There's something maybe a little bit off with it, but also maybe, people just aren't interested. So, so anyway, you could plug it in, but I plugged it in at full list price and it still works at 8.5%. And her total first year investment return with the unrealized and realized gains that Shane and I were talking about earlier was 24.5%. So I was just saying, I don't know many assets that I can invest in where you're almost guaranteed a 24.5% return on investment. That's a pretty good deal to me. So I was like, you might want to rethink why it's, quote, not a deal. I was like, that looks like a deal to me all day long. But
Shane, I told you need to go find a deal. He just made it so easy for you.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of deals out there, though. I was looking in that area. I just got an alert about one that just came listed at $230, a 4-bedroom in that same town. I was like, whoa, what's this? And it looks nicer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that Arizona ones you send over to me because I'm out in Arizona.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
If he gives them up, Cindy.
Oh, if you give them up. I didn't know if you wanted to invest in Arizona.
No, like I said, yeah, I got interested. I'm like, these work. So I set up some alerts, and I just got an alert yesterday about one of those properties out there. I was like, that looks pretty good.
Nice.
So Mike, before we get into the deal structures too deep, from your first property and you're buying additional properties, at what point did you start thinking, oh, Section 8, something I have to look at?
Great question, Shane.
I want to get onto. How do you come across that?
Yeah, I fell completely backwards into that for the listeners. I can't say it was something I researched and knew all this about. What ended up happening, and I think I highlighted how when I first moved out, I rented that place out with anything I couldn't fit in my car. It stayed right there in my unit. I never saw that stuff again because the tenants that I had move in, I was vulnerable. I was like, wow, I'm a young guy. I don't come from money. My parents didn't give me money or anything like that. The money I had from college was just through scholarships to get into college. And then I had college debt when I got out. But anyway, so when they moved in, I thought they were good people. It was 2 younger girls, college girls. They were going to University of New England, which is only like a 15-minute drive away. And I was like, oh, this could work out. I met with the dad. He paid the security deposit. And he's like, yeah, the girls are going to pay every month. I, got some stuff in line. Not good enough though, because about a month into it, not even a month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks into it, I was getting complaints from 2 of the neighbors that I was friends with. Like, Mike, you might have some issues in that unit. And that's another good thing about HOAs, because if you could befriend a few people in there, they're going to be some of your eyes and ears as well as the HOA that you could leverage effectively. But yeah, so I then quickly learned I need to get these guys out of here. They had parties, they had drugs going on. It was not a good experience for me. That was my first eviction. Yeah. 2 months into being a landlord, not living in it, I was doing it my first eviction with police involved and the sheriff involved and all that stuff. So I listed that unit up for rent. I thought about selling at that point. I was like, maybe this doesn't work. Maybe it has to be in my backyard in order for me to own and be a landlord and be an investor. I said, let me give it a shot though. I was like, let me just try it if I could do this. And what ended up happening is I put an ad on Craigslist, and a person reached out, many people reached out. And one of them was talking to me about Section 8, and I knew nothing about it. And I went with my gut instinct, which gut instinct should be 5%, not like 85% of the reason you go and move forward with a tenant. But at the time, it was literally like 85% of my rationale, because I was also desperate. I'm like, holy cow, I got to get this thing rented. But it was an arduous process. I will not lie. It was a lot of learning. It was a lot of documents that I never heard of, a HAP contract, a request for tenancy application. I'm providing W-9 information. I'm just a young guy. I'm 856 miles away, hoping this stuff works out. And then there's an inspection after I do all that, and I go and wait like a couple of weeks going through the paperwork. They don't inspect your unit, and your tenant doesn't even see the unit until you complete the paperwork and you pass an inspection from the home quality standards officer. And I had to learn all that firsthand, and I just got lucky. Thankfully, it passed, Shane, and that tenant is still my tenant in that unit that is now paid off from her rent portion, which is very minimal, and the government's. I've paid that unit off. That's that one in Old Orchard Beach, unit 26. I'll never forget it. It's still my unit, and she still lives there.
And those are some really cool tenants to have, right? They're long term. That there's no complaints.
Candy. Yeah, Shane. She sends me candy. She's super thankful at Christmas time. She knows I got kids. She knows my kids. And I'm a pretty big fan too of being a human with your tenants. Don't be afraid to be involved with your tenants and let them realize that you're just a human as well. And we all have quarrels and quandaries and challenges in life. But I'm not saying you give them a free pass. I don't give them free passes, but I treat them great. And I treat the units great. And that's in the training as well. Be down to earth. Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to use your authority and your power to scare them or anything like that. Follow everything by the books. If you're going to give them a warning, give it a written warning. You know, we have all this in the process in the trainings, but do it the right way. And you know what? It comes back tenfold back my way, you know, and I love all my tenants. My tenants all know me. They reach out. I let them have access to my cell phone. There's actually data, Shane, on this too, where their likelihood of tenant turnover increases significantly when you leverage a property management company. I'm not saying you don't leverage a property management company, because you have the margin in all these deals. I could certainly go off and use a property management company, but I know it's not in the property management company's best interest to keep my tenant long-term, because they get paid more on turnover. Right. They don't mind people moving out and moving in, and they don't mind all the maintenance and stuff like that, where I want high quality items and I want long-term tenants, which is where I'm at now with my average tenant is over 8 years.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the major expenses when we start talking about, especially multifamily, but any rentals where we talk about having it managed, right? One of the major expenses is that, you know, you have to build in vacancies. You know, you have, because there is built-in turnover. And then if you start getting where you have tenants that are around for 8 years, thousands of dollars saved.
Thousands, Shane. Yeah. And when you multiply it by 5, 6, 10 properties, thousands is like tens of thousands. Yeah. And I bake it in there too, you know, and that's in the forecaster. Vacancy is put in there just to keep it as a conservative model. And you can control all those on the forecaster tool itself. But I put in like, what do I put in? Like 3 weeks of vacancy. But oftentimes, if you're doing it right, when you have vacancy with Section 8, it's likely only because somebody had to move out for like a family reason. It's not because if you did it right, it's not because you're evicting them. It's because they're moving. The 2 people, I've only had 2 Section 8 tenants move out in the 16 years I've been a Section 8 landlord. Only 2 moved out, and both moved out for family related reasons. One had to go move with their uncle who was dying. It was a bad, sad story. And the other one also had to move out for a family related reason and totally relocate. They weren't just like moving out of my unit and moving next door down the road. And they let me know that. And when they let you know in advance, it's great because you could advertise it and show it. And I had somebody in the next day after they moved out and we had it inspected because they'll do a move-in inspection. It took me, on one of them, it took 5 days because we got it all cleaned up, but they do a great job cleaning it up too. And they usually don't move out at the end of the month, right? They're going to move out, say, at the 20th or something like that. You have your rents paid all the way through the end. So, I talk about that. There's good times to have people move in, and there's good dates to have people move out as well. And I always say, there's thoughts in the training that talk about that too. What's a good date for somebody to move in? Don't just haphazardly pick a date. I think about everything systematically and scalable ways. But I do want to highlight too, when I said about being personable, I'm saying just let your tenants know you're just a human. You're not some millionaire on the other end, and you care about them, and you also have a family and things like that. I'm not saying share your secrets or share your net worth, or don't share things like that, and don't really become a good friend of them, because they could leverage things against you maybe. But I'm saying let them know you're human and you're there. And they don't have to know who you are, but at least they know, and I've seen value in that. I have.
And we've heard that from different points of view. And Albert talked about it a little bit as well when he was on, was you just maintain that personable relationship. They treat, your tenant treats you differently than if they think it's just a faceless organization, right?
Yeah, there is. The human factor goes a long way. And when you really break it down, it should, because I feel like it's the same with me. It reciprocates back to them how I treat them too. I find myself, I'm never really angry with them, and they feel open to tell me when something's going wrong. And I have to convince them, I'm not going to blame you. Just tell me, because I don't want a leaky faucet to turn into mold and subflooring issues and then electrical issues. Tell me as soon as you got a problem, and we'll take care of that, ASAP. Like I just did today, actually, oddly enough. I just had a tenant in Windham, Maine. I got a townhome there. And she said, "Hey, Mike, just want to let you know, I know, it's not a big deal, but I know you tell me this. Literally, I could show you the email." And she's like, the bathroom faucet is just not draining really, really well. That's all she said. Now, I do talk about that in the training too, and you got to be a diplomat. There's some things that aren't on you guys as investors. And I talk about that. For instance, let's use a clogged toilet. Is it clogged because you put too much toilet paper down? Well, that's on you, tenant. And you kind of explain that to them in such a way that they'll get it and they'll take care of that. Or is it because the flapper's busted and, hey, I got a few flappers. They're up. I even put flappers in my units because it's such a common reason for why the water's running on a toilet. Right. There's little things like that. But anyway, being a diplomat, not everything is a fix for you as a landlord. Some of it is they got to own that problem. If they put the spoon down the sink for the garbage disposal, well, guess what? Okay, either you want it replaced, then you got to buy a new one, or I'll have it just removed. Right. And I do that. And I'm actually a huge advocate for that, Shane, actually removing all garbage disposals. They're the bane of me. Garbage disposals and dishwashers, I do not love at all.
I'm sure there's a lot of good stories behind that.
Yep.
Yeah, or maybe not good stories.
They're not bad. They're always, I don't know, I didn't put anything down there. And it's all this shrapnel. And I'm okay, this somehow made its way in here. It's 3 different pieces of silverware I've had one time. But I've learned, so I was a DIYer when I was a young guy, when I got into it. And I learned how to do a lot of that stuff. I don't do any of it anymore. And I'm a huge advocate of not doing it for anybody, because it's just a distraction anyway from whatever your day job is, or maybe you're a full-time investor. Your time could be spent way more valuable looking for your next unit or running the numbers and, and focusing on other stuff.
In my background, when I first got into real estate many years ago, it wasn't because I watched YouTube, because the YouTube didn't exist at the time. I'm old. But it was just something that I did, right? I got into a house, I rehabbed it, sold it, and then we got into rentals. Different today, different. There's actually a lot of education out there that wasn't there before. But my mentality was that these 2 hands had to go out and fix the problems, right? I had to be the one to go out and rehab the house. There's a tenant problem, I had to go fix it. So there's probably some power in following Mike's advice his path and going out of state and buying a rental property, right? That way that problem isn't 2 blocks over and you're thinking that, oh, I got to go stop what I'm doing, or just dinner hit the table with the family. I got to get up, I got to leave, I go fix that toilet.
Yeah, exactly. And if and that's where in the training, I mean, the key focus, right, first and foremost is the finances. As long as you're comfortable with the numbers, then all the rest of the stuff isn't going to be this life or death feeling at all. You're not going to lose sleep over when you hear a complaint or you got to fix or something like that, because you have that in your margin, and maybe if it happens the first like 5 months, you're like, oh, I don't really have the extra, like, I don't know, $5,000 if there's a serious issue, but ultimately you're likely making at least like $200 to $500 a month in positive cash flow anyway. Right. So you quickly build that up, and we already bake it in when you're looking at buying a deal. We have maintenance calculated in there. I have maintenance on there, and I have vacancy on there as well. But so you're getting that much further ahead too, Shane, for a problem to happen when you don't have any vacancy and you're not having any maintenance. And I'm talking years, guys. Some of my units, I go years, because let me circle back to, because I did see some questions on like, well, then tell me, why about HOAs? Like, what about HOAs and condos and townhomes? And there's a section in one of my podcasts where I like listed off a litany of the issues that a single family house has that an HOA, a townhome and condo community just will not. And it starts on the outside alone, guys. Like, and I'm not just saying though, you can buy a single family and it can work, and I look at single families as well. But just think about this, because a lot of people are like, hey, I will not buy an HOA or a townhome property. And when you start with the outside, driveway, sidewalk, grading issues, lawn care, shrubbery, tree issues, these are things that I did have, crawl space issues, septic tank issue. I haven't even hit on siding, windows, and roofs. I've had decking issues. I had a sliding glass door issue. Not many condos have sliding glass doors, guys. I don't have a single one. I have 6 condos and none of them have a sliding glass door. I've had sliding glass door issues. I've had all these screening issues with the sliding glass door as well. Well, believe it or not, guys, a ripped screen could cause a problem in the home quality standard inspection. I learned that firsthand with one of my single family homes. It just goes on and on, guys. The grading issues, I'd had French drain issues outside, septic tank problems, water main line breakage from a guy that was working and doing some landscaping. And that's just on the outside of a single family home that I haven't even gotten on the inside, which let's first start with square footage. The average size, in Google this, I did, the average size square footage of a single family home is, I believe, 2,400 square feet now. The average size of a townhome condo is 890 square feet. Well, guys, in investing, square footage doesn't really matter, at least with the Section 8 model. You're not going to get more in rent in FMR just because you have a huge palatial home that's a 4-bedroom versus a 4-bedroom that's 1,100 square feet. The square footage doesn't factor into any of that. The quality will, amenities around it will, location will somewhat. They'll make some adjustments on location, because you'll see an FMR for a certain county and you may not get that top dollar because that particular unit is not in the best of a neighborhood. It might be in a Class C neighborhood, which means there's pretty high crime. There's kind of run down. There's boarded up windows. You could still Section 8 it though, and the numbers might still work and you could still move forward. And then still on the inside, we're going back to square footage. You typically, a single family home has these big hallways. Well, hallways aren't going to pay you more in rent. You typically have chandeliers. Somebody made a comment on here. They pop up for about 5 seconds. The ceiling fans. I talk about ceiling fans in my training. I love it. Somebody said, like, I talked to somebody that has Section 8 and they hate ceiling fans. Correct. We, as wise investors, do not like ceiling fans. And the primary reason I don't like a ceiling fan, guys, is because there's 4 or 5 light bulbs that shine down in different directions. Well, when the home quality standards comes to investigate and pass your unit, if one of the light bulbs doesn't work, your unit fails. They don't replace the light bulb either. They're like, no, I'm not going to replace it, because I do everything remotely. So I'll talk to them. I'll be like, come on, John, just throw a light bulb in there. I got him in. He's like, Mike, you know me, I can't. He's like, I'll come back tomorrow though. There is some favoritism there. I'm part of the owner's excellence in Maine. And that does help you. And there's ways to get that. And I talk about that in the training as well. And they will give you some preferential treatment, which is perfectly fine. When they know you're a good guy and you're doing it for the right reasons and a good cause, The home quality inspectors, you're going to get to know them. I have 5 in my phone, and they call me directly if there's a problem in the unit, and they'll let me know what's going on. Initially, that's not going to happen. And I also say initially, just treat it like they're going to go in there and just scrutinize the heck out of your property. But it's in your best interest anyway. And that's the bottom line. What I came to conclude is, as annoying and as painful and as many landlords that bitch and moan about the home quality standards being horrific, I think it's fantastic. Because guess what? That means I don't have to be going there annually, because they'll do an annual inspection. I don't have to go in there annually and look at that stuff. But I'm getting a little sidetracked, but I'm still on single family homes. And we'll go back, the big hallways, the ceiling fans, chandeliers. Most of them all have garbage disposals and dishwashers. Many of them also have big cathedral ceilings and walk-in closets. I do not like walk-in closets anyway. There's a pain there. And if the door doesn't function correctly, your unit could fail as well for that. There's several others, but to stop talking, because I feel like I've been ranting there saying, yeah.
So when you talk about acquisitions, right? So you're out looking for deals. How are you sourcing your acquisitions? Are you doing just looking for stuff that's on market but a bargain?
Well, not always, Shane. So, and I talk about that also. And, so good question. So what I do now is, when you're part of an HOA, and this is another unique thing that I didn't realize until I got involved in condos and townhomes, which I've always been involved in, right? I branched off into single family and was like, holy crap, I got to get rid of these. I'm going back to HOAs. But what you're able to do is actually leverage the community message board. And the past 4 properties I bought, so far now, and the most recent 4 I bought were all off-market deals from HOA community message boards. So when you do get one unit, you now have access to the HOA message community board, and you could say stuff. You could be like, hey, parking is an issue on this side of the street, or whatever, snow is coming in, let's make sure we move our cars, or whatever they say. Well, you as an owner can also write on there. And I just posted, hey, my name is Mike. I've owned in this complex for 3 years or whatever. If anybody's interested in selling, I would love to purchase your unit. Please reach out to me directly. Thank you so much, whatever. So that was one unique way. Another unique way is tax assessor's offices. You can look up properties, see what people paid for them, and make a guesstimate. Because if I don't have MLS access, realtors do, and other people working in real estate do. I don't have that MLS access, but you do have tax assessor access. So I talk about, go on the tax assessors. I bought 1 unit from tax assessors, looking at that. Some people look at probates. They see what's going on there. You don't know what might be going on with people when you see a house and you see people moving. You could also reach out there. I've reached out to people that I saw a for rent sign in the window of a unit, and I bought a unit that way too. That was another unique way. Some people, believe it or not, still do those for rent signs in windows, which is hilarious to me. But anyway, they did it, and I reached out. And what I did was I looked on the tax assessors to find out who the owner was. And then there's a little bit of stalking, guys, no doubt. I went on LinkedIn and looked up that name. I knew where they lived, at least the state, found them out there, reached out to them on LinkedIn, and we ended up communicating that way. And ultimately, I ended up buying their unit. That was about 4 years ago. So there's definitely unique ways to get off-market deals. Because, Shane, to your point, or I'm guessing this is why you asked it, the point that you would have asked that, is it's not easy, especially even right now, guys, to purchase, because there's bidding wars still going on. I'll be honest, the past 4 or 3 deals I've made offers on, I'm targeting Greensboro as well as Arizona. Arizona's kind of making my crosshairs. I've been targeting Greensboro, and I'm 0 for 3. One of them was an all cash deal that I didn't get, that I offered 191 on, and the list price was 175, and I didn't get it.
Wow.
Like, I still didn't get it, because that's what it's like when they're on market deals. It's still pretty bad. It's still pretty hard. So if you could get an off-market deal, or you could get a good realtor that can hook you up and say, hey, Shane, I'm going to do a bunch of mailers for you. Great. That's awesome. That's a great realtor. My realtor does it in Maine. He sends mailers out for me. And, and I buy with him, and I talk about befriend a realtor. They can become a good ally, but don't take investing advice. Realtors don't know financing. They really don't.
So, Mike, in your journey from buying properties, finding Section 8, kind of focusing on that, how did you come up with the idea of creating Section 8 secrets? What was the reasoning and logic behind that path?
Yeah, it was death by paper cuts, to be honest. I think some of my friends started seeing my lifestyle and they're like, this doesn't seem like theirs, right? Like I took good vacations. I kept growing my family. I live in a, I mean, I'll be honest, I live in a big house. I have a 6,100 square foot house. Some people's houses, that's not even, my basement is bigger than some of my friends' houses, in all honesty. And I'm not trying to brag. I think they started observing that and they're like, how are you doing this? You work in HR, right? Like, they're like, we know, you know, you're smart or whatever, but we don't, what are you doing? And so what I'm saying is they used to just ask me questions about real estate. And yeah, it is a lot of cleaning. We have a cleaner though, so it's not on me. But we ended up just, I kept reciting myself, right? Like over and over. And I got to a point where I was explaining it pretty well, but it would take a couple beers. It would take, hey, let me grab lunch with you, Mike, to eventually Albert. It's Albert. He motivated me to the point. He's like, Mike, you have so many systematic ways, because he came over and he's like, can we talk about real estate finally once and for all? Because I'm going to buy and I want to just do whatever the heck you've been doing. That's honestly what he said. And maybe he told you guys this. And I was like, yeah, just come over. We'll have a beer or whatever. And he wanted to see some of the spreadsheets that I work off. And he was like, this is crazy. So you just, I was like, yeah, that's right. I have a Google. One of the things you talked about earlier, Shane, was technology that didn't exist back in your era and that does now. Well, one of the best things that I did accidentally, you know, that I didn't realize how much value this was going to be, was I created a Google form application. All my tenants, it's a link in my ad and it's free. Most of my tenants are blown away that my application is free. Well, it's free for me, so I'm not going to charge them. I don't really care about $50 for the application, but you guys can charge by all means. It's, you know, but anyway, I don't charge. And what it does is a Google form, and they're all form fields. So every question has a reason why I'm asking the question. And it's not the same reason that maybe private market tenants are being asked. For instance, I ask, do you have a job? Are you currently employed? And how long have you been employed? Well, I actually asked that. For Section 8, it really doesn't, I'll be honest, guys, like it doesn't really matter that much if they have a job or not, as far as what type of person you're getting. It really doesn't, because some of them might be disabled. Some of them might just not have a skill set that they can really get a legitimate job. And then some of them are in markets where there just aren't that many jobs, period, anyway. And that's okay, because you're going to get 100% from the government. But why I actually asked the question, and this might sound bizarre, but I ask it because I want to know how long they're going to be out of the unit that they're living in. That's my unit. Because the less they're in it, the less wear and tear on it. It's just one of the things. It's a different way. I don't ask about income though. And some of them will ask me that. Like, how come you never asked about what do I make? Correct. I'm not really worried about what you make. You're in Section 8 because you're below the poverty line. So whatever your income is, I know it's below the poverty line. I'm not really worried about it. And also know that the government's screening that for me anyway. They're keeping a tight eye on the income. That's probably the only thing I really trust in the government side of it, other than the money coming in, is they've already screened that income because they wouldn't qualify for a housing choice voucher anyway.
So you ask those questions to find out who is spending all day in your,
and then they get a point.
Someone who's gone 8 to 10 hours a day.
Exactly, Shane. And then I score a point. They get points based on that. Maybe it's 1 out of 10, that question. Another question I ask is, how many children do you have? Which that's very important. And then I value that because it's depending on the unit that I'm renting out. You really don't, and then I ask a follow-up question there. Please tell me the gender of your children. And why I ask that is, well, there is a difference, guys, right? Boys and girls. I say it in one of my videos, like boys bang stuff. I mean, I crush my own head. I crush in the walls. You know, when I'm a kid, I have a young boy. So that's wear and tear you want to consider, and you want to maybe tweak what they're going to score. Do it non-discriminatory. Of course, guys, I'm not an advocate of discrimination. I work in HR as well. Girls don't get 100 either, because you want to know the ages now, because they have feminine hygiene issues. They clog, many toilets get clogged. You know, and these are things you learn as a landlord, but value it for what you want. But it is something worth valuing. And lastly, and probably the most important thing there on that question, Shane, about gender, is Section 8 housing choice voucher. The government will look at it and say, anyone 18 years under 18 years of age, the same gender can have 2 to a bedroom. Okay. I don't want that. I don't want 2 to a bedroom. I want a boy and a girl and a mom. That's that's a 3-bedroom unit right there. A 3-bedroom unit is a boy and a girl and a mom. 3-bedroom unit. And I say a mom because, guys, I'll be honest, 98% of the housing choice voucher that I've experienced from my angle has been females, young mothers, because they take their children. Not many fathers that I've experienced, and I'm a father, and I love being a father, but I'm just being honest. It's the young moms, and there's some intrinsic value there that you get out of helping them, because they are in typically tears when they see one of my units. They're in tears. But I'm getting a little sidetracked here. But that's where the gender. Why not want shared bedrooms of same gender? Yeah, because, guys. So all right, here. It's beds and heads, right? So the less heads you have under your unit, the less wear and tear on your unit. You want to mitigate risk. Look at it that way. It's risk tolerance. How do you ask those questions without being discriminatory? Right. They're not discriminatory because you have a point system that's going on. And like I said, it's not yes or no or 100 points or 0 points. It's just a point system. It's like any application that typically has a systematic way behind the scenes. You're not saying, and I don't not rent to somebody just because they say, oh, I have 5 girls or something like that. It's a point system. And then it is what it is. And then it feeds it to me. And what I was going to say on that, which is really cool, is I'll get an email from Google Forms that'll tell me, hey, Shane Roach just applied and he scored a 78. Well, guys, you're going to get in such an influx. When you rent your first unit out in Section 8, you will get so many applicants. You won't talk to a 78. Sorry, Shane, no offense, but I'm not giving you a call, man. I only call 90% and above. And the only reason they're not higher than that, they could be a little higher. I could get a 95%. I leave 5%. That goes back to what I was saying earlier in this call. I have a 5% feel factor, and that is it. I only talk to usually 2 people for every vacant unit. I only make 2 phone calls. That's it. 2 phone calls. Can you target homeless veterans for housing? Yes, you absolutely can. Yep, that's right, guys. So on that question, I try to answer some of these questions, but you have different housing authorities that then have nonprofits that they're associated with. Avesta Housing is one. Through These Doors is another one. They might work with a certain demographic. And it's not discrimination, guys, because you're choosing to work with veterans. It's not discrimination because you're choosing to call Through These Doors and work with a battered, sheltered person that's now living in a shelter in complete privacy because she's at risk. I've done that. I work with Through These Doors. I work with Avesta Housing as well. Because you want to branch, like I wanted to branch off at that point, and you get a little bit more out of it. It sounds like, maybe it sounds scary. It's not, guys. These are good people. And it's the same reason. This is a sad thought, right, guys? I've talked to some of these applicants and I asked them to send me an email, and wow, was that eye-opening when they're like, Mike, how can I send you an email? What do you mean? I don't even have a cell phone and I don't have a computer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so naive. I'm sorry. Like, I don't even know what to say. And what I'm able to do in the profits that you make is pay it forward. Send them a computer. I sent them a MacBook. I've sent 6 MacBooks out. They get a MacBook waiting for them. My realtor, I sent it to my realtor. My realtor has it. I don't even meet him in person, but I have my realtor box it up. I send him a box of MacBook Pro, and it's boxed up. I have him wrap it. I pay my realtor to do it. And he's like, dude, you're insane. I was like, no, I'm not. Like, these people, there's some intrinsicness though, guys. So it's not all return on investment. So I'm so interested in this to help people. Right. That's something that I don't really talk much about, guys, because most people new to this are just about the money, but there is so much that you're going to get intrinsically. If you go about it right, though, you have to have processes and standard operating procedures in place to be able to reap the benefits. I really feel that can pay it forward. Because if you're scrapping and you're scared and you're like, oh my gosh, these numbers aren't working, and you're not doing it right, and it's not repeatable and scalable, you'll have a hard time wanting to even branch off and like send somebody a MacBook Pro, because that could be a new flooring for one of your units that you needed. but I do believe in giving back, and those are the ways I do it. And maybe call me selfish. I give back to just my own tenants. I don't really, we do some church stuff and things like that, but my tenants typically love me. And guess what? When you give back like that, you're not going to have turnover. They know they're like, holy cow. And I always do say, Shane, too, one last thing before I'm done spewing at the mouth is these tenants, when you have that application and you get that 90 percentile, one of the other questions, there's a lot of questions on there that there's a reason they're 90. When they're 90, though, they understand the golden ticket that they possess, which is the housing choice voucher itself, guys. 8, 9, 10, 15-year wait list, guys, for a housing choice voucher. When you have a 90 percentile based on my application process and screening process, they know they're holding a golden ticket. Believe it or not, before I had this process in place, when I was speaking with some of these individuals, call me biased, but I think I'm a fantastic landlord. Call me biased. They were picky and choosy with me, and it turned me off. So I'm like, I'm blown away that they're saying some of the stuff that they were saying, where that's where I really needed to refine stuff, because I wasn't getting somebody that understood how valuable that golden ticket is. And what I mean, guys, is they only have a certain period of time. And I talk about this in the training. When they get possession of that golden ticket, they have 60, 90, maybe 120 days to find a landlord. And they're typically on their own. The woman that I was using as an example that didn't have a computer and didn't have a cell phone, she was at the shelter talking to me. And she went to the shelter and went to, what's her name? Annie. Annie was the person that threw these doors, was the rep I was speaking with that was super, super helpful for me as a landlord. There's a reason also, there's a financial reason you would also work with the MPO that I could talk about. I don't even talk about it in the training, but there is, because it's all upfront money. They give you everything upfront on a vacant unit because they need it, but they'll go and inspect it. But anyway, my point is, Annie had to go to Annie and use her computer to fill out the application even. And that was, it was that bad, but they still scored really high. And it goes in, there's reasons why, but she understood it was a golden ticket. And so what I'm actually saying on that point, though, is she didn't even have a laptop. So she had 120 days to find a unit, and she doesn't even own a laptop. And they don't have a case manager or something like that until they get a unit. So they're doing it on their own. They're extremely vulnerable. So extremely vulnerable. And the wait list and the demand for housing choice voucher landlords is so high. That's why the wait lists are typically 9, 10 years. Actually, in Pinal County, Cindy, I believe she told me they closed the wait list. It's so extensive that they don't have one. They shut it down, meaning they just have an abundance of people. They're not even taking new ones. Such a shortage of landlords.
Wow. I didn't even, Pinal County, I'm literally on the border of, I drive like 2 minutes in Pinal County. Crazy. But we're talking, I think that property was at Casa Grande. That is a good 40 minutes from me, but it is Pinal County.
Yeah. And Cindy, something, we talk about is, being market agnostic, and that's not really agnostic. 40 minutes, that's closer than any unit I own. I think, yeah, maybe. I do have a unit in Hedingham that was made national news. That's a sad thought. That was one of those mass shootings. It's actually a wonderful neighborhood. I lived in that unit. That was the one I bought in 2010, but that one's probably my closest one. That's 35 minutes from me. But yeah, 40 minutes isn't too bad, but it's building your resources. That's the other good thing too about HOAs, townhomes, and condos is I do talk about buying in groups, buying pockets of units in one neighborhood that you've already vetted out. Because I do look at crime rate. I do target a Class B area. Well, it's really typically a lot easier because if you're buying a condo garden style, there's usually like maybe 100 of them right there. So maybe you can get 2 or 3 in that one little pocket. And so you're buying a group of them in that one little area. And that means your resources that you need, a plumber, electrician. And I talk about that before you even are closing, you're lining up a general handyman, a plumber, an electrician. You're getting all that stuff organized. So that way you're ready. When you need it, you got it. They're there. And I talk about doing 2 or 3 and getting some quotes from them as well, and not being married to anyone until you're that happy with them. But I have one complex where I have 5 units, and it's perfect because I have a plumber, I have a good electrician. And that's the other good thing with the HOA though, too. They take care of all the stuff on the outside. I don't have to worry about all that stuff. Talk about that. Where do you find your... Yeah, Shane, I try to answer some of the questions because they're good questions, guys. I love the questions, but I know we keep talking. It's funny. I haven't even gotten to my presentation, but I don't have enough time, but no big deal there. I think this is hopefully pretty good info. I can look at some of the questions, Shane, if you think that's good.
And maybe to answer Pam's question and some of the others, if people were to join Section 8 secrets, do they get access then to your analyzer and to your checklist that you use for vetting new tenants? Give us a quick rundown. What's included in that, and how do we find access to it?
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. This was the presentation I thought I would present to you guys. Do you see ideal properties for housing choice voucher tenants? Is that what you guys see?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was going to do this really nice presentation for you guys, but I do this for newbies as well. We do some free webinars here and there. So no big deal. It's not like I prepared all this material just for this, but actually here's a good example. Here's a couple of the units here too that you can see. These are real units. This is the garden style complex. I own 5 of these. And this is the Headingham unit right there, actually. But what was the question, Shane? Sorry, I got sidetracked.
When people join your Section 8 secrets, will they get access to your analyzer and to your checklist that you use for vetting out new tenants, et cetera? This
They get that. Here's an example right here. So let me log in as though I am this is what you would get right here. So I'm going to log in as though, I think, or am I already logged in? Maybe they're treating me like I am. Hold on. Here we go. Timeout. I have too many. He's open. Well, let me just show you. It's fighting that. Hey, it's like, hey, you're already logged in over here, I guess. Yeah. All right. Let me back up then. Oh my gosh. Now it's kicking me out. So here's the analyzer right here as though I'm logged in. I should be logged in. Come on. Yeah, I'm logged in. Let me go to my library. Oh yeah. So here's what you would see right here, guys. So when you sign up, now the coaching is separate. That would take you to a different process, but here's the e-course itself, which is essentially the training, the PDF that you also get a copy of the PDF itself. But in here, there's a lot of additional content. There's a lot of videos, 40 additional videos in here. It highlights on quite a different way of educating too, because there's quite a bit of videos. But then on top of that, there's a Q&A spot, and then there's a full community as well. But yeah, you go through here and I'll just show you a couple examples, I guess, like selecting best cash flowing properties. Yeah, single family homes are a headache. But you see, you can go through here, deal analysts. And so we go through a lot of everything that you would get in the PDF, but in fine detail at this point. And then I throw in like a video. Typically, I started off with a video. There you go. Family home today. Here's like a video. And each one. On top of that, though, yes, you asked about the forecaster. That's right here. This is a user would see this right here. You could go right here. You click on the forecaster. Here is the analyzer. I'll click on that. It'll take you right there. So yeah, one of the owners, Lucas, is somebody I would have introduced in the PDF in the PowerPoint presentation. He's a former VP of operations engineer, PhD in math. I tell him what to do and he does it fast. So I told him, make it fairly simplistic, but I want a heat map, Luke. And what this served, guys, was a pain point that I experienced was finding out the FMRs is not always easy. Mm-hmm. The government sites are old, clunky, legacy software platforms that don't have, they don't leverage technology at all. One of the things I even talk about self-management is technology itself, like leverage technology. I only talked about application, but I have a free Google phone set up. I have Gmail set up for my properties only, so they're not email my personal stuff. I have different tips like that. But anyway, here's something that it solved the problem of, because you can go to the HUD site, and I have it in the training. You can go to the link and you can go search HUD site, and you could find out the FMR for every single county, or you could leverage the heat map. The heat map, green is good, orange and red, not so good. but that's just by the state. You could still find really good green in an orange or red state. But let's just take, for instance, it doesn't really matter. I'll go into Oklahoma. So if you dive into Oklahoma, now it's actually heat map telling you green is good. So this is actually a good property county to target right here. This one that's green. Now, sometimes it could just be there's not many sales there. But bottom line is, hey, whatever this Dewey County in Oklahoma, it's pretty good. Now, I could promise it's based on math and it's based on, data. So it can't be that bad. I don't say use this solely, but this could definitely help you get on the right track. And I've spot checked a heck of a lot of it, and it's usually pretty good. But I had my, VP of ops put in, I want to see population growth. So they're dying. This is a low population town. So sometimes that means good luck on finding a sale, though. But if you can snag one, then you might be doing pretty good. But it doesn't even have private market rent data because there's so few out there. But so this is a
so get those numbers right there, Mike, with your bedrooms count. It goes back to, it doesn't matter if the house is an 1/8 of an acre or 2-acre lot. It doesn't matter that it's 1,100 square feet or 2,400 square feet. It's the bedroom count. That's all that really matters to them. Is it a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or 4-bedroom?
That's right, Shane. That's just about all that really matters. Now, I do talk about, though, remember, the neighborhood does influence it a bit, too.
Yeah.
So the county is one thing, because sometimes you run into these counties that are pretty darn big. They might have 6 or 7 towns, and suddenly they realize, well, whoa, they're way out in Bodunk area where there's not a school, there's not a shopping center, there's boarded up houses around this one house that happens to be pretty nice. You will find that there'll be a difference in what you're going to get for the FMR. But on average, these are what you'd be getting. Yeah. So I try to average it out. And now sometimes I actually get above it, believe it or not. I've gotten above it because one of the units that I purchased, of the 4 units that I bought for my HOA messaging, one of them was insane. They did so much work to it. Real hardwood, bamboo hardwood, granite countertops, stainless steel, everything, built-ins in the bedroom. Now, don't get me wrong. My tenant was blown away and thrilled. I got a heck of a deal because interest rates were low and it was an off-market FSBO deal. But I get more in rent on that one. They actually adjusted it up for me. And I was like, okay, that never happened to me. But they're like, yeah, Mike, have you seen this? I was like, well, I've seen pictures. That's what I said to the inspector, John. I was like, I haven't been there. He's like, dude, this is like immaculate. I was like, yeah, my realtor said it was really nice. I was like, what does that mean for my rent? He goes, yeah, you're going to get 8% above FMR. I was like, okay, it's the first time I've ever had that. I don't advocate for that, though, guys. You do not need to go over the top on any of this stuff. I just say high quality, long-lasting product. LVP flooring is fantastic. You do not need bamboo wood flooring. I'm a huge fan of LVP flooring. I love it. I have it in my basement. It works fantastic, and it's weatherproof, and you could replace a strip of it anytime you need to. But anyway, not to get
so Mike, if these are the averages, where do we find the actuals for?
No, these are the actuals. This is the FMR for a 3-bedroom in that county.
Okay.
That is what the actuals are, Shane. So the actuals are actually the average for that county, though, meaning it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily get that exact amount. You might, and you likely,
you won't know until you get the house in front of the.
Yeah, they do a rent adjustment assessment. So oftentimes you don't even balk at it. You're like, perfect. It might be like $6 off, or it might be exactly on. Like I found certain towns, it's exactly on. Old Orchard Beach, whatever they advertise for Portland's rent rates is exactly what I get. So Cumberland County. But when you dive super deep, guys, you're going to find that some public housing authorities within that county have their established jurisdictions of neighborhoods that they're going to have specific rent amounts that they'll give you. So it gets a little, there's a little bit of ambiguity there, but I wouldn't fret too much about it. You're going to get somewhere right around that. And it goes up every single year, guys. My average increase over the past 14 years, because I wasn't calculating it the first 2 years, has been, 7.15%. I have it on my spreadsheet. Average rent increase, guys, 7.14%. Average annual rent increase, 7.14%. That means my average take home is significantly more, Shane. I think you're an investor. So when you increase rent by 7%, my take home increased by about 20.
Right.
So it's like huge jumps. It's like getting a huge pay raise. In this year alone, in despite what the news and the market and the media tells us, I increased my Raleigh Housing Authority properties in Wake County. That's where I live, in Raleigh. So the Wake County Housing Authority, 14%. My units here in Wake County went up 14%. My units in Maine went up 12%.
Wow.
12%. Now, that's pretty common, guys. Maybe non-investors, but rents typically lag 12 to 18 months behind what values are doing. So even if values are going down, rents tend to they stay pretty consistent, if not keep going up, because also they're lagging anyway. So there's a lot of good stuff there. And especially when we go into a recession, rents go up because more people have to rent. Like, that's just data. Like, this isn't just me, like, that's real data out there. And I experienced that firsthand in 2008. I got one of my biggest rent adjustments in 08 and 09. I was like, holy cow, what's going on? Like, rents went up like 20% one of those years because there was such an influx in renters. Yeah. Anyway. So that's just one example. So yeah, but Shane, so then you just click out here, you could zoom out, you could pick any state, pick your favorite state, pick your favorite color, whatever you want to do. Or maybe you're not market agnostic. If it's your first one or two deals, like maybe you want to pick the state in which you reside and live in, and then you can do that as well. You can see Maine's got some good green. Now, again, the population is low, so there's not a whole lot of available housing. That becomes one of the problems, though. But at least you targeted a pretty lucrative county.
You're using this software to kind of gauge what your potential rent will be. Are you using a different analyzer to when you find a house to see if it's going to qualify as far as price and maintenance cost? And is that
so then you want to dig deeper. So just use these things as tools, not as deciding factors. They help you get to your decision. That'll help you target what county. Now you want to target, because now you want to target a condo or a townhome or whatever thing like that. Then you got to find that out. And you got to find that. You got to use a realtor. And I talk about that. Leverage a realtor, or maybe you done your own research and you know exactly where you want to buy, and you got to send some mailers out. Believe it or not, I have my realtor send mailers out when I know of a specific area I want to buy in. He's sending mailers out every quarter or whatever he does. And maybe you get one bite a year only, but at least it's one. And then when you find it, this is what I was talking about before. This is the forecaster here, that the yellow cells are the only ones you could type something in. And that's where you would type in and find out what your deal is. Actually, this is funny. Cindy, this is Colleen's deal right here. This is the Arizona deal. I used the forecaster when I was responding to her. And here it is, guys. Here's a real available deal. I talked to Pinel Housing Authority, and they said, $2,000. And actually, Cindy, I spoke with them, and they said if she could provide 3 comparables to argue why it should be more, then they'll adjust it accordingly. So notate that, guys, too. Listeners, like, when you feel that the FMR is below the market, then make a case. They let you make a case. It's a rent adjustment opportunity for a rent adjustment assessment to be done. And you could provide your own 3 comps, and it doesn't have to be some MLS comp. It could be from Zillow, Realtor, whatever. And that you show, hey, this is 2,300, 2,400, 2,500. And they'll look at that, review that really quick. And no, it's in the PHA's best authority, Public Housing Authority's best interest to get you on board as a landlord. They need numbers to be met too. They have a budget of money that they need to give out to us landlords every year, and they want more and more landlords. They will befriend you guys, and you could leverage them. And I talk about how to leverage. You'll get a landlord liaison, you'll get a PHA person, and you leverage these people to help you guys. So I'm always super nice to these people, though. I'm always overly nice to them. But
so yeah, Mike, this is another one there where the first look at the property, it doesn't fit the 1% rule.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's where I talk about, guys, the 1% rule. It didn't even exist like and Shane, you likely know this, like the 1% rule came about after 2012 when markets bottomed out. But I highlighted, that's right. And what I said, Shane, to Colleen on our community was, don't be so quick to assume that this isn't a good deal. even if it doesn't meet the 1% rule, right? Like, even if it doesn't meet that, couple reasons. One, I highlighted to her, this house has been on the market for 214 days. I just put that you're going to get it at 262, the list price for 214 days. But suddenly, like, what if you got it for 230, right? This becomes a way more lucrative deal just by tweaking it down $32,000. Like, it's not going to, there we go. Look, it becomes a 13.5% cash on cash. Now, you could still argue, but wait, Mike, that's still not the 1% rule. I honestly think we got to stop thinking the 1% rule is that critical, because it really isn't. And now look at this, Shane. This still doesn't meet the 1% rule, but look at the total return on investment. The first year alone, guys, you're getting 30% annual return on investment. And what do I mean? Well, these are unrealized gains, right? So you got your principal pay down of $1,800, your positive cash flow, and you're only charging $2,000. That's actually the rent they said, Cindy, just so you know. And I think that's the same. Pauline said that on the community. $2,000 is this particular unit that they would likely start with as a number, unless you could make a case, Mike, for why I should give more. And they would say, give me 3 comps that show me why you should get 2,400. And I could probably make the argument, because I did find the comps, Cindy, just so you know, where you probably would get, you'd probably be getting 2,200, Shane. Realistically, I would make the case, very clear case, because I found plenty of units. I wrote them down somewhere. I was trying to find it when I was talking earlier, because I found the units that, here it is. Monet is her name, guys. I'm not making this up. I wrote all this down just a couple days ago. But anyway, I found 6 units really quick. 2150, 2210, 2275, 2595, 2400. So I would just share it all with them. And they're super nice typically when you do these rent assessments that you want to argue to get more. And anyway, so let's say 2200. Look at what this really means to you guys as investors. You're making 35% return on investment. Now, that's unrealized and realized gains. But unrealized gains are usually greater than your realized gains anyway, but oftentimes just an afterthought. You'll stop with the afterthought in about 5 or 6 years when you look back and you see how much equity you have, and you start having fun calculating your net worth, because that's where your net worth comes into the equation here, is on the unrealized gains that you haven't even tapped into. You're just happy about the positive cash flow, which I get it. I'm there too. I love positive cash flow. That's how I'm taking vacations all the time right here. But look, that's just an annual cash flow on one lousy property is bringing you $9,000 of positive cash flow, bringing you $765 a month. This is a real deal. This is a deal that Colleen said, no, ain't going to work. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm seeing something different. So that's why I tried to tell her. I was polite about it. It's like, you might want to reconsider that. I don't know if it doesn't work. To me, that works. To me, that is not a bad deal. I wouldn't stop just because she said $2,000. That's all I'm going to get for rent. Because it isn't easy, guys. It's a lot different buying properties now post-COVID. I will say that. And that unit's sitting there. Now, maybe it's not that unit, because that's also something I talk about. When a unit's been sitting for half a year, 7 months, there's something going on with it, I would think. I did look at the neighbors, and they have boarded up windows and stuff. So I was like, but the crime rate's pretty low there. I did look that up, and I was like, it's not bad. But anyway, not to get held up on that. But guys, this is where you plug everything in on this deal to be 100% confident that you know what you're getting involved in. And that's what I enjoy doing. So you could put, look, annual rent increase. You could tweak that to whatever you think. I have days vacant, so you could put vacancy in there, and you put all that stuff in there. And I talk about down payment has a lot more than just 20% of the purchase price. There's also fees. There's discount fees. There's processing, recording stamp, settlement fee. I want you to know and be prepared. Look, it's another almost $5,000 on top of your down payment of the 20%. You're doing another $5,000. That's all calculated in this number right here that you've got to be able to deploy out to acquire this unit and to be getting this cash flow. So then what I want to know is how long will it take me to get my money back on cash flow alone? How long will it take me to get $50,000 back? It'll take 5 years. But that's just on cash flow alone. And that's calculated at this number, but not calculated at an increase of 4% annually. So it's going to be less than that. But if you didn't increase rents, you'd be getting it back in 5 years. You're likely going to get back sooner than that. And that's just your down payment. And then everything else is literally icing on top. Plus you have an asset that you own. Plus you have about by that point, 40% equity in it as well. So not only you get your money back, but you also have 40% of 260,000, right? So you got some good money. You've built some net worth.
The blue box here to the right, is that the
the year. Exactly, Shane. This blue box, just make it easy for folks. I have that color coordinated. That box is an indicator that you're now at you've now met your investment. But that's cumulative, unrealized and realized gains. So in less than 3 years, it highlights in 3. But look, you're already over it. In less than 3 years, the $50,000 that you used to acquire that property, you've already gotten back in under 3 years. Yeah.
And like you said, that the first one might be slower, but time you get to your second deal, your third deal, your fourth, now you're getting those are compounding and coming faster and faster.
Oh yeah. And I have in the training a really fun Excel sheet that highlights, and I have a video on that as well on the compounding.
Mike, do you have a video on you walking through a deal, like kind of like what we just did, showing you how to enter your numbers and why?
I do right here. Look, forecaster video tutorial.
Asking you,
shall you ask?
Okay.
Yeah, I have that video right here, and it's pretty much the same type of thing. And I'm trying to explain it. It's a little long, but you could always fast forward through whatever. But yeah, that's in the training though. So I make everything, as accessible and understandable as possible. And you're welcome to ask questions. But yeah, I have that right in the training here. I actually in the training highlight
207. Let's assume I get it at that.
Oh, I'm playing it. Sorry, I didn't mean.
You heard voices in your head, didn't you?
Yeah, I was like, wait, what in the world? What was I saying there, Shane? Though, yeah. So it's all in the training itself to help walk people through to better understand what they want to be able to do and leverage.
Perfect.
Yep. But yeah, here's so here's everything and the e-course and then the consulting is really good as well. To get involved in the consulting, that's a one-on-one. That's myself and Albert, and it's 12 sessions, and we essentially dissect the deal with you and go through it.
Access to the Section 8 secrets and getting things like the ebook, the community, your analyzer, that's separate than the private consulting. The private consulting is an additional add-on above and beyond access to everything else.
Exactly, it is.
What are you charging for?
Value. I mean, I wish I could do it for the same cost, but I super value my time probably more than I value money, even, especially with 3 kids. So yeah, that ends up being a $3,000 cost to go ahead and join. And I'll be honest, I mean, you're going to get your money's worth if it just gives you the peace of mind and the ability to buy your first property. We work with people that have bought 3 properties. I've worked with some people that actually have more properties than I have, but they don't have a housing choice voucher tenant and they've never dealt with Section 8. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And they don't mind. I mean, they don't balk at the $3,000. It's not a big deal to them. Of course, they have this positive cash flow and they're just trying to diversify their holdings and get involved. And then there's other newbies that just aren't ready to, get off the fence and get off the sidelines that need that coaching a little bit more. But yeah, the training is great because you go at your own leisure. It's $8 a month. And you go at your own leisure. You have the community that you could talk to folks. You could ask questions. You could go direct to us as well. And we do the best that we can to answer and field those questions and concerns that you might have. But yeah, it's good though, because you bounce ideas off one another. Just like I was saying with Cindy, with Colleen on there, like her saying, hey, this doesn't work. They'll only give me $2,000 a month. I'm like, okay, I think it works, but you don't mind if I buy it. Stuff like that though. Yeah.
The power of community though, right? So being part of a group that's like-minded, sharing success stories and horror stories, and saying, hey, you may think that's not a very good deal, but here's why it could be a good deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it in essentially in a nutshell. And I don't know why it keeps taking me back to here. I wanted to try to show you the PDF here.
So again, it's Section 8 secrets, 8 being the number 8.net. I'm going to just throw that in the notes as well.
Yep. Or you could just go section8secrets.com. We also own the .com, either or. Yep. Yeah. I'm not used to looking at it as a user, so I'm trying to show you guys it as a user. But the PDF is really good. It's a 113 page PDF that you'll get in your email, and you also have access to it on your login when you log in. So if you're more of just a visual and you want to just you could print it out, you could look at it on your email. Can you share it with friends and family? Yes, it's fine. I think ultimately where you really get the value is the $8 is really useful because you get the full access, the forecaster, all the tools. I have 10 additional Excel, Google Docs spreadsheets that you get, which one of them includes personal budgets. I start with personal budget, the most basic of basic, I guess, but it's amazing. Not many people are prepared. Your personal budget, understand, because you got to come up with that down payment. And I talk to people, I coach people. How am I going to get the money? And there's alternative financing options for sure. I mean, Cindy's kicked this off talking about a self-directed 401k for sure. Yeah, that's an option, no doubt. Sounds complicated. It's not that bad, right? And Cindy probably knows it inside and out. You could probably reach out to Cindy. She'll help you out on that. But different alternative financing ways of doing things, and and a bunch of other information.
That's another great point, Mike. I'm an Excel guy as well. I like to look at numbers in great detail. And that's one of the ways I started in real estate, is I started with my own personal budget and, started working with the numbers that way, and then look at it over time as just start analyzing deals, what works, what doesn't work. And I always thought about doing a show based on that whole thought process of how you look at your income versus your passive income, and what does that look like over time. And I'll have to look at your budget analyzer and come up with some ideas.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah. The forecaster and the analyzer are separate from the personal budget. And I have ways that you could forecast your net worth on there as well. I made mine pretty robust. So it's I know, and I'm big on goal setting, and, I use SMART goals as a methodology, but that's one of the things. And it sounds, maybe it sounds anal. It's pretty detailed, but it's kind of fun because Excel's that way. Excel's insanely detailed, but you could forecast and track, internal rate of return. You could forecast so many different things with Excel, and I love it. And that's one of the things I'll track too, is net worth forecaster. So how many properties you need based on what appreciation, based on what values that you're currently at, and whatnot. But yeah, these tools are great, and they might just be a gateway for you to explore it even heavier, like I'm saying. And suddenly, we have all the financial measures on these spreadsheets as well. I actually have a real estate financial fundamentals spreadsheet too, for those wanting to learn more about cap rate, more about return on equity, something that not many times you hear about. What the heck are you talking about? Return on investment? No, return on equity. At what point do you have too much equity in that unit that you need to not sell it, but you need to cash out refi, because the return on equity is so low versus the return on an investment that you could do with that equity. So we talk about, there's different things like that you could dive deeper on and really enjoy. It's fun. I think it's fun. And once you get involved, but that is one of the hardest things, Shane, I find. The biggest hurdle isn't isn't joining. We have plenty of people on this and doing things and moving right along. I can see the progress and stuff like that. It's relinquishing that money. It's not even, they figured out how to get the money. It's letting it go, deploying it out into their first unit, maybe even their second unit. I will say this though, guys, after you get one or two under your belt, it is so much easier to deploy that money again. I got to a point now where my wife, we did a huge renovation on our property here, $250,000, and every quarter, every 50,000, I'm looking at it. I'm like, Kim, that's another unit. I'm like, are you serious? We're going to do this now too? Yeah, we use the people from Love It or List It. It's actually really cool. BTS Design did they're awesome. They're awesome. Jenny and Jason from HG Network, from HGTV. Yeah, we applied for it, and then COVID hit, but we were going to be on, and they said, we're so sorry. We had to move the crew back to Canada, but would you like access to the resources that you would have been being utilized for the show? And we're like, absolutely. So we use their BTS design. Look them up, Jenny and Jason, awesome people. They did our whole redesign. We did a bunch of stuff. But anyway, I was looking at every 50,000. I'm like, there's another unit. There's another unit. And you'll get to that point where that's where you want your money to go, because you see what it's doing with your cash flow and with your freedom. And it's pretty awesome feeling. I mean, I've got to that point where I don't need my corporate job financially. And you have a different aura about yourself. And the people have said it to me. I don't tell them why. I just say, oh, I was just so happy here. It's like, little do they know. It's like, you guys could fire me. I'll be like, give me a little bit of severance, but I have my cash flow and I love real estate anyway. That's my true passion. But I do love my job, but it's like a different feeling when you're not working at your job for the money.
Right.
You don't need it. I need it to just get to my next amount to buy my next property, but I don't need it to survive. And that's with a family, of 5 that I have. And when we don't, and that's pretty awesome feeling. And I'm not saying it to be like, oh my gosh, be like Mike or anything like that. I'm saying it because it's a revelation that I had once I got to that point. On my spreadsheet, I had a goal. I had a goal that I had to get to in my cash flow. And then it got to a point where I met that goal a few years back. And then it just accelerated once COVID hit. I learned that these units are pandemic proof, and they gave me 120% of rents too, of Section 8, my housing choice voucher one. So suddenly my cash flow just ballooned by it. And now all my money from my job plus a good amount from my cash flow goes into savings, goes into doing whatever. So yeah, but spreadsheets, it goes back to spreadsheets. You'll get comfortable with those spreadsheets. You're going to know your numbers and you're going to deploy the cash right when you know that's your unit.
Yep. And then I think that's a weight being lifted off of people that they don't even know is there. But once you get to that point where you have enough income over on your side, right, that you don't have to have your full-time job. So if something were to happen, once you kind of hit that point and you know it, you have a perspective on life. You really do.
Yeah. And Shane, we've gone through a lot of layoffs. I work for a tech company, and there's no doubt. And in my role, I get plenty of people talking to me about their nerves and being nervous. And I laid a lot of people off. I'll be honest. I mean, I run point on all R&D engineering, product engineering in both Canada and the US. And it's sad. I'm sad for them. I empathize for them. And I can only imagine being on the receiving end of that. And people that don't have this type of cash flow, and many don't, right? Like, you're going to be an anomaly out of your group, guys. This isn't, other than this network right here, you're probably not going to be networking with like your friends. I mean, friends and family, great if you are, but most aren't going to be doing this. My brother doesn't do it. I have a sister doesn't do it. My mom doesn't do it. My dad didn't do it. You might be a trailblazer for your group of people that you interact with, but let them think you're crazy. Let them think like, why are you still driving? I just got a new car finally, because my wife's like, when are you going to spend? I'm like, Kim, we just spent $242,000 on the renos. She's like, but you're still driving a 2010 Dodge Ram truck. It's like, well, my inner being still wants me to just, I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm cheap by any means, but I'm pretty conservative when I spend money, but I'm not when it comes into real estate. You'll get comfortable getting it out there in real estate, because I actually feel like that's the safest thing I can do with my money. That's the safest spot that I feel. If I know I have 50, 60, 80,000 I got to put out there, I'm good with it going in real estate. I feel like that's the best spot I could put it. But I'm not saying you guys will feel that way initially, but once you research, you read, and you better understand and feel good about it, you'll be there. I think at some point in time, you're going to hit that moment.
And I don't want to keep you too long, Mike, and I don't want to keep everybody, but I do want to hit back on a point that you mentioned about personal budgets, personal finance. And you start looking at where your money is being spent, and you start comparing that to, boy, all these things add up, and I'm $5,000 or $10,000 a year going out on things that don't add value back in, or I could save that stuff up and leverage it into my first unit, change the trajectory of the rest of your life. You start weighing those things out. You start really figuring out, how do I start that snowball? That first snowball is going to be very small, but you got to start somewhere.
Yep, exactly right, Shane. You got to, and that's one of the hardest things to do, is get it started, like you're saying, and it does snowball. here's the Section 8 data sheets that I'm talking about that you'll get access to. Come on now. Why is it not opening on me? I was going to show you guys some of the spreadsheets in here. Like I said, I'm not used to looking at it as a user. Why are you not opening? Well, it doesn't want to open, guys, but it's a really good template of different financial measures too to get comfortable with. And just like Shane's saying, it's also a template for your personal budget that and maybe it's not as good as one that you're using. Kudos to you if you are. If you really have, there's some really good, there's like mint.com. There's some other good resources out there that you can leverage for personal budgets. I like the Excel because it's like all hands-on and manual. So I actually have to go and like I reconcile every year, and like my personal budget looks comical because like I have 11 years in red underneath my Excel sheet. I keep adding tabs. And I can go back though. It's really fun, guys, when you look at your personal budget too, and you see your successes, you see your discipline paying off. You see how much of your money coming in is going to savings. I track that. And you track your outgoing costs, the ones that you have to have and the ones that you're frivolously doing. We talk about how much are you eating in money? Like how much are you going out to eat? We talk about even birthday parties. I put birthday parties, I put travel. I mean, birthday parties that you go to and parties and events that you do. Like we put it all on there. But yeah, nothing in the essence of time though, Shane. Yeah, we hit on personal budget pretty big in the training as well. Yeah, I wish I could open that up, but I don't know why it's not wanting to open.
Maybe you have it already open here in your bottom left. I see you have some Excel files open.
Oh, I have so many Excels though. These are all like work stuff.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Job, family reports, data. I live in Excel. Yeah, this is all sorts of different Radford data, but it's all right. I mean, hey, join the community and you'll see all this stuff along with a lot more. Like I said, I think there's 11 different just templates and stuff like that you can leverage. And I say just download them and you own them. Have them, take them. It's okay. Take the training guide, share it with your mom, your dad, your friends. The more the better anyway, honestly, that get the training. It's going to help out. I mean, that's where I go back. I'm speaking at Maine Housing Authority up in October, and I'm just giving it away. I'm giving the booklet away. I can't give the community away because there's a lot of, I pay for the hosting, I pay for my time and effort and other stuff on here, but I can give the booklet away, and that's what I'm going to do at Maine Housing, and I'm probably going to do something at the Raleigh Housing Authority, but I'm going to speak in October up there at that one, and I'm going to have a bunch of them to give out, and then anyway, it's just a good cause too, guys. There is that intrinsic value. Bottom line, it boils back down, and if you're helping out on affordable housing, then you're helping us all out. Because there's society, there's data on that, like how you're actually, the housing choice voucher, it's their choice to live in a neighborhood rather than a program in a giant building, a project.
You're right.
And the projects weren't working. That was what happened in 1974 when they opened it up to us, the private sector, the private owner like you and me. And they said, hey, can you guys rent it out to your units? Because the government ran out of space and they also ran out of success. They found that these were turning into high crime, high drug, not good areas, these project-based. There's one in Baltimore. There's a really cool book on that. It's called The Voucher Promise. I was going to try to grab it, but I don't want to knock the TV down. That's really cool. It's called The Voucher Promise. This woman graduated out of, I think she went to like Georgetown or whatever. And it's called The Voucher Promise. And she lived for like 6 months in the projects in Baltimore. And I was like, holy cow, is this a problem? Yeah. I read that book like years ago, and I was just like, that is pretty wild to see what she experienced, as she basically treated herself as a housing choice voucher and lived in that project and said it was just horrific. It's such a bad. And why I'm dwelling on that is because that's not what the housing choice voucher program is. It's not project-based. And I'm not saying we can't go, and I've considered project-based myself, because you could convert a school, you could do different things, and there's funding and there's grants for that as well. Great if you manage it, but the ones that the government was managing, and that's what she sat in, she said it was horrific. Mm-hmm. It was awful. But what we're doing and what the housing choice voucher is much different, and there's really good data and statistics on that. I talk a little bit about that in the training as well. You're really helping out society as a whole. There's less people in jails. There's less costs for jails for being hospitalized on drugs and opioids. These are the people that you could help out. The kids, then generations you could change the trajectories of these people as well. And I mean, it'll hit home once you meet them and they're in tears. I've had 3 tenants cry right in front of me the first time they saw my units here in Raleigh. And I didn't know the first time. It caught me off guard. I said, did I say something? I froze. I'm like, did I say something? No, Mike, you didn't say anything wrong. And I'm like, is everything okay? And they said, I never thought I would live in a community like this. And they were like, I gave them a hug. I was like, it's okay. It's going to work out. We're going to get you going and things are going to change. Guess what? Her husband died in a car wreck, right? Not a bad person. Her husband died in a car wreck and she had 3 kids and she was left out to dry and she was homeless. It's sad. There's sad stories and there's good people inside those sad stories, as long as we don't write them off. And it's the bad landlords giving housing choice voucher a bad rap. That's the bottom line. That's just a fact. If you ask me, it's not bad. These aren't bad people. It's the landlords that don't know how to manage and have a systematic way to handle. Even if it was private market guys, they would probably be bad landlords and they would probably wreck their place. Even if it was private market guys. I've evicted 2 official writ evictions. Both of them were non-Section 8. I've never evicted a Section 8 person. And again, I'm not saying that may happen though. It could happen to you guys. But if you have the right application, you have the right screening process, and you have the right standing operating procedures, you just about eliminate, not just mitigate, you probably have eliminated that from ever happening. If it does happen though, guess what? There's a chapter in there to take care of that for you. I do have that in there. I did get systematic with it back in 2007 when I had to do my first one. I wrote it all out on Microsoft Word, everything I did, including how to call the sheriff and when does the sheriff go there and when does he put that message on the front door. That was scary for me. I didn't have any money and I was like evicting somebody and I'm like, I don't even know what's going to play out here. But yeah, anyway, guys.
Well, fantastic. We appreciate you, Mike.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry we never got to your presentation. We had such a great conversation, almost 2 hours in. And I'm sure it's an amazing presentation. Maybe we'll have to have you back some other time and hear how Albert's trip went. And we'd love to see your presentation and hear more about what you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds good. And Shane, if I missed some of the questions in here and people have questions, feel free. I mean, we could do even a brief question and answer if we want to do another call, not too far down the road. If there's a way to go through maybe and just put all those questions together or whatever, guys. I'm happy to answer the questions. Maybe I'll spend 30 minutes just answering questions.
Yeah. Here's a great time. If anybody has an additional question or a question that didn't get answered.
I just happened to stop on Pam White's, but stupid question, define leveraging. That's not stupid. Yeah. Leveraging, I don't blame you not really knowing. If you don't have units, you don't know. What I mean about leveraging is you leverage the equity that you have. Once you have a few of these properties, you have leverage in that. You have what we call liquidity. Like you could leverage the equity that you have to get another property where you don't even need to come up with the cash that you came up with to buy the first 1 or 2. Because now by the time you get your third property, your first one has probably gained enough in appreciation and principal pay down that you could leverage that equity to buy your 4th one. And then your 5th one, you could do it with your 2nd one. And it compounds. And I have a really cool part of my training about compound real estate, how you really by 10 years, you'll have likely 10 properties. And right now where I'm at, and I mentioned it, which isn't a big hero spot, I'm not in this amazing, but every 6 months, my cash flow alone puts me with an ease to go ahead and buy another property with the down payment. That's 20%, call it 50K. It's over 50K, but I have enough with a little left over for fun and leisure to keep buying another property. And I feel that's a comfortable number for me is 6 months because it's hard enough to find properties. And I go back to my time being really valuable. And it's just like, I don't want to buy 10 properties at once because I have to dedicate too much time. It's really healthy though. Every 6 months, it's simple. Yeah. But that's what leverage is. I just happen to stop on that one question. Are there certain counties that accept? Well, technically the Fair Housing Act itself says all counties need to accept Section 8. So yeah, there's not just certain ones. They cannot discriminate, going back to that big word discriminate. But the Fair Housing Act itself protects those from discriminating, including a county cannot discriminate. Property types are reviewed. Yep. Just figured I'd stop at a few. Heat map. Yep. It's 40%. Yes. Oh, you're originally from Raleigh. Oh, that's cool. What process do you go through to figure out money? Yeah, guys. So I'm a huge fan of conventional conforming Freddie Mae, Fannie Mac lending. Especially if you guys have less than 10, it gets a little complicated when you get above 10, but then you can just start paying some off. And that's what I did to get back below to buy another one, Shane. You'll have that in cash flow and everything. So, eventually, but yeah, so up to 10, you could do conforming conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. And I talk about, the FHAs. Don't think just because maybe you already have a primary principal resident, doesn't mean you may qualify to get another primary principal resident's house. And maybe it makes sense for you to go ahead and do it just because of interest rates and down payment to do it and actually do it legitimately, which is usually like 6 months. You got to actually have a mailing address. I'm not going to tell you guys how to do this necessarily, but there are ways to do it. And that's how I did it. And I came from the mortgage industry. Now it's probably changed a little bit, but it used to be 6 months. You have to be getting mail, utilities in your name. And then they'll be okay with it at that point. I mean, the bank's still making money. They're just trying to make sure you're being legit. But yeah, you could do that, or you could actually go and live in it. And that's what I actually did too, guys, just so you know. So when I moved from Maine to Raleigh, I bought my next place in 2010. I moved down in 07. I had to save up. And like I said, I didn't have a big job or anything. I didn't have big cash flow. But then I bought another property, and now I bought another FHA. So the Hedingham unit, which I still own, and I still have that same loan, was an FHA loan. And it was my second one. And then I moved again when I met my wife or met my girlfriend, and we were buying a house together. That one was my third, and that was a primary principal resident, which is kind of wild. So there was 3. Then I bought another one in Maine. Yeah. Anyway, going on. But yeah, there's definitely ways, guys, to just research it and understand it and get with a good loan officer. I talk about leveraging brokers in the training as well. Brokers are good. I don't like going direct to banks. I work with brokers. Brokers work with 50 to 70 different banks. I was a broker. I get it. Yeah, you could say, but aren't you paying a little bit more in the fees behind the scenes? No, you're not. You're actually not. At least I wasn't doing it. And they've changed and they've gotten really strict on that anyway. So you're likely not, but don't just trust me, but you're likely not paying any more to work with a mortgage broker versus going direct to a lender. There is a difference there. I love brokers though. They're usually sharper anyway than the lender themselves, than calling Bank of America, for instance. Or you can call a company like I call Maine Mortgage Partners for my Maine. They're not a big bank. They're a mortgage company that works with like 70 different banks. So they have access to all sorts of different loans, bridge loans, portfolio loans, different types of things. Hard money is an option as well. I don't believe you can go to Bank of America and ask for a hard money loan. They don't offer hard money, but brokers typically do. And if they don't offer that type of program that you're looking for, they probably know somebody that will. So I love brokers, both on insurance too and on lending. Yep.
Yeah, and in that market, different banks, but different lenders have different programs that they're pushing and have better deals on. So working with a broker who's sharp, they'll be able to go out and say, oh yeah, for what you want, I know these 2 or 3 lenders specializing in that right now, right? They got the best rates, the best options. The best.
That's right.
Let's go with those 3.
That's a great point.
One, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Because they get to know you as an individual too. And the more business you're giving them in working with them, you're going to get to know them. I mean, they'll buy me beers, they buy me dinner or whatever like that. And that really works in your favor. It's just networking. It's all legal, guys. Like you're just getting to that point where they're going to appreciate you even more. And they're going to let you know. And they usually give me a good deal too. I feel like it's pretty good. And they might not give that same deal to somebody else. It's their, when volume, you get kind of a volume discount, so to speak. So yeah, you work with them and you'll befriend them as well. Like I'm huge on keeping a resource tab as well. And I talk about that too. Track everything and track why they're on your tab. Track why do you have, like I have probably like 6 different lenders. I think my resource tab consists of over 90 different names, numbers, emails, notes, and a grade. I also keep F's in my resource center because I don't want to use them again, but accidentally. There's different things too for resources that I'm talking about, whether it's a locksmith or a window guy or siding, roofing, whatever you're using these people for, track them. I'm huge on keeping track and keeping notes. And they usually love it when they remember, or you make them believe that you remember, hey, Fred, I used you 3 years ago, man, on this property. You did such a great job. I wanted to call you again. And they'll be like, Mike, oh, I think I remember you. but really they don't. But it just gives them a good added feeling. I believe it helps. It does. Those little things add up. But anyway, just another random tip. But
you're full of random tips. I do appreciate it because those little gems are priceless. So
yeah, I don't trust these guys. I will be honest. I don't trust a resource until I've used them a couple times. Honestly, I gotta be honest. You're kind of guilty until proven innocent, and so that's why I like keeping those notes. It'll be like, okay, I'm gonna use this guy. It's my go-to guy. It's not just somebody's on the move.
Somebody else, Katie.
I don't blame you guys. I know we went pretty long, so I probably got to go in and check on my son. Was at a swim meet.
Sorry, Cindy, I unmute there, and I know you had something to say. You have to unmute though.
Okay. I just want to say, Mike, I will be in Raleigh September 15th. It's a Friday. I plan on golfing.
Nice. I'm actually renewing the vows. I have a bunch of people coming here, staying on that weekend.
Can you email? All right. Well, can you email me some golf courses to if you have one day? If you could email me some golf courses, that'd be fabulous. I'm coming in there for a wedding too.
Oh wow, yeah. North Carolina is a pretty popular wedding spot for sure. But yeah, that's awesome. But let me know. I mean, if you wanted to try to. Like catch up even maybe I can
absolutely will do. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure, guys. And feel free with those questions, Shane, if there's more deeper questions and people want to know. I mean, I'm happy to help.
Well, we did put the website out there. Is that where you want everybody to go, Mike, or is there another way to get hold of you that you want to share with everybody?
The website's perfect. Go to the site. And Mike at section8secrets.net. You could always, email is fine. But starting at the site and reviewing some of the content there. I've been on a few podcasts, so you could see some content on the podcast as well. I think that's actually Cindy saw. I was on a couple podcasts. I'm working on. You guys may have heard of Bigger Pockets, so we'll see what happens with that. But I was in talks. They have this whole discovery phase. It's funny. Like I don't even know the guy's name that I'm talking to, but he worked for Bigger Pockets. I think probably a few years ago it was easy to get on there, but now I'm like, all right. They're like, okay, you got to talk to the next guy. So I'm hoping I can get on that one though too at some point. But I appreciate the invite, Cindy and Shane, and thanks for everything.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, great. Well, I think we'll wrap it up.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you everyone for coming.
All right. Yep. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.